Hey guys, how's it going? My name's Travis Stevens. I'm here at the Toronto airport waiting for my flight. Missed my connection from Munich, so I thought I'd put together a video log for you guys on how I mentally prepare for competitions. And how I mentally prepare changes from event to event on the status and how important that event is to me. So for smaller tournaments like Grand Prix, Grand Slams, the former World Cups, the European tournaments now, I start preparing mentally for those 3 weeks out from a tournament, and I spend 2 weeks just thinking about all the possibilities. Who could be in the draw, who am I going to compete, what would be the worst draw, worst case scenario, best case scenario. And when I think about it, it's like I'm living it. I feel like the pins and needles, and I start to sweat, and I start to get anxiety, and my heart starts to race every time I think about it. When I get that throw mentally in my head, my heart races and I get excited and I almost jump up like it actually just happened. And I try not to think about these things while I'm invested into preparing for it, because I want to make sure that my preparation for the tournaments is solely based on making sure I get better as an individual and as an athlete. I don't want to prepare for a Grand Prix or a Grand Slam and then all of a sudden feel like I need to taper off because I just achieved something. I want to train through those tournaments and make sure I'm prepared for what's important, like the Olympic Games. So on the mental side of it, 2 weeks out, I think about everything. And then a week out is when things start to change for me, because I know now that everything is kind of set in place. I've thought about all the possibilities. I've mentally fought the top 30, 40 guys in the division already. So I know what to expect, and I know how I'm going to play each match based on how my training's gone so far. And that's what's really important, is because each tournament I enter into, mentally I have to prepare differently for it, because my training has been different for each one. Just like this past weekend in Tashkent when I won, I mentally came into that with a different game plan than I had before in the past, because a lot of my training partners are injured at the moment and we're kind of at a downtime in Boston, so I had to think about those matches differently and play them differently, and it worked out. So for those 2 weeks, mentally prepare, figure out how good of shape you're in, if you're going to have to play tactically, if you can just run over everybody, and then figure out how you want to play the whole event as a whole. And then a week out from the tournament, that's when I just focus on my weight. I could care less about who's in the draw, I could care less about looking at it. Don't really matter. The only thing I'm focused on is my weight. And then I flip again to the night before the tournament, where the draws come out. Now you know who you could possibly face and not face. Well, you know who you can't face because you're never going to run into those people because they're on the other side of the draw. And you know who you could potentially face because they're in your quarter, in your semi. And then a lot of people like to strategize or think, well, who could beat who could do this, and kind of like almost fill out the division mentally for themselves. Or even literally, I've seen people fill out bracket sheets with their name at the end, and then everybody who beats who through the whole division, and then take it with them to the tournament the next day. Me, the day before, think about nothing. All I do is watch videos, make sure my weight's okay, I relax, go for a walk. Anything that's non-judo related or non-competition related, I'll do. If it has anything to do with sports, not interested, could care less. That way, I don't overanalyze situations. I've already thought about how I want to play everyone. It's already set in stone in my head mentally on how it's going to go down. I don't want to start overthinking it to where it could turn into a negative possibility. Because a lot of times what happens is when you start thinking about things, you think about it, all these good thoughts are running through your head, and then a minute later, before you know it, now the what ifs kick in. And it's like, well, what if he does this and he counters me? And now what if I'm down? What if I'm losing? What if he throws me for ippon? Like, how can I come back from this? And then your anxiety kicks in, your stress kicks in. Before you know it, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning and you got to be up in a few hours to compete, and you have no sleep. So I like to just not even concern, trust my judgment, trust that I've mentally prepared already those 2 weeks prior. My weight's okay, I'm ready to weigh in. Now let's just relax, because everything's already been done. And then going into the tournament before matches, that's when it really kicks in. Everything for me has to run like clockwork. I have my set warm-ups. I want to make sure I'm warmed up at this time with this much of a break. Make sure I do these specific exercises, these specific drills. make sure my heart's racing at this pace. Like, I have to really make sure that things are going right, at least for me, to make sure I'm ready for that first match. Because that first match is going to dictate the whole day for me on whether it goes well, whether it goes bad, if it goes too fast, too slow. I really like my first match to make sure it at least goes 3.5, 4 minutes, to make sure I really get my lungs burning, make sure I really get warmed up in the match, and make sure I really get into the flow of the tournament. The last thing I want to do is walk out there and throw a guy in the first 30 seconds and then come out for a barn burner in my second match and then be burnt out. That way I can kind of build into the tournament. For me, mentally anyways, that's how I like to look at it. And then when I'm getting ready to step onto the mat, it's a whole different story. At this point, I just have to let myself know that, hey, this guy's not going to let you run over him. I don't care where he's from, how bad you think he is, or how good you think you are. You have to be ready for a fight. You have to be ready to go the full distance of the match. You have to be ready for your lungs to hurt, your legs to burn, your forearms to burn, your fingers to be broken, to get head-butted, to get your face ground into the mat. Like, be ready for it. Because if you're not ready for it, it's going to be hard to flip that switch halfway through the match when you're down thinking, wow, I need to kick it into a 6th gear here. Because you're not going to have it at that point in time. So when I'm getting ready to step onto the mat, I'm just thinking how much pain I'm about to go through, how much suffering I'm about to endure for this one win. And then I welcome it. I'm looking forward to it, because I know there's no amount of pain that this 5 minutes can instill into me that I haven't gone through in training before, in the 2-hour sessions, hour-and-a-half sessions that I've had before in the gym, in the dojos, in the clubs. Those 2-hour-long practices, hour-and-a-half-long practices where you and your teammates are kicking the crap out of each other. There's nothing more painful than that. When you're talking about a 5, 6, 10-minute match inside of a competition, that's easy. Piece of cake. There's no way you could be more tired in that 10, 5, 6-minute round than you can be in that hour-and-a-half long practice that you had. Okay, so I welcome and embrace that threshold of pain that I have to go through to make sure I win. And I have to mentally make sure that, hey, I am going to go through this and it'll be okay. So when I'm getting ready to step out onto the mat, it's not about how I'm going to beat this guy. It's not about how bad this guy is or how easy it is going to be to throw him. It's about how much pain and suffering I'm going to have to go through to make sure I get this win. And if I don't go through it, I don't go through it. But I want to make sure I'm mentally ready to go through it. That way I don't get out there and go, what's going on? Why is this happening to me? Because once that happens, it's going to be hard to kick it into another gear. So that's how I kind of mentally get ready for different competitions, how I look at it. There's different ways to do things. But let me know what you guys think.